What is up, Packers fans, and welcome to this episode of the Pack a Day Podcast. I'm your host and the publisher of Packer Report, Ross Uglem. I do apologize for being late. My computer was acting absolutely insane. I think it wants to be updated, but we certainly did not have time for that. It is cut down day, and the Green Bay Packers have released their 53-man roster. I always call these initial 53-man rosters. There are a fewer levers as far as like IR designated to return can be done today. There's not so much procedural stuff that has to happen. But there are still some procedural things. Like I don't know that I believe they're going to go into the season with just 4 linebackers. I don't know that they're going to keep Kamal Haddon and Micah Robinson. I think they're going to keep 6 corners. They might be looking at a corner from another team. So always the initial 53-man roster. I will very briefly just run through it for you guys so that you know the names. And then we'll go from there and get into some of these questions. I guess I'll probably offer my initial takes. So quarterbacks, Jordan Love and Malik Willis, no surprises there. My guess would be that they're looking at El Gersma for a practice squad position, and if they don't do that, it'll be a quarterback from another team. Running backs, Josh Jacobs, Chris Brooks, and Emmanuel Wilson. Marshawn Lloyd starting on injured reserve, designated to return. I think they're gonna, give him the 4 weeks, if you will, to get healthy and ready to contribute for the team. Wide receivers, 6. No surprises here. I think early in the day, it did come out that they were going to release McCole Hardman, and that made it super obvious because Malik Heath was so involved in everything that they did that it just became clear they were going to keep him. I think 100%, Christian Watson's going to be a part of what they do when he is eligible to return. Will they keep 7 receivers at that time? Will somebody hurt? Will somebody be hurt? Will they release Heath at that time? I don't know. So many different, so many questions, so many possibilities. I thought one possibility was a Savion Williams IR, like red shirt type situation. That did not happen. Tight ends, a little bit of a surprise here. Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave, Ben Sims, and John Fitzpatrick. Ben Sims and John Fitzpatrick are going to have to play some teams. They're going to be on the special teams units for sure. I think a lot of people had Fitzpatrick on the team and Sims off. Doesn't make a massive, massive difference to me, but I am a little bit surprised that they went with 4 tight ends, especially since none of them can really play fullback. And so that one's a little interesting to me. Offensive line, a little bit of surprise, I guess, that Donovan Jennings made the team, but then once you saw Monk, injured reserve, eligible to return, that made more sense because you knew that Kennard was going to make the 53. They wouldn't have just sent a 6th-round pick for him. And then you've got Rasheed Walker, Jordan Morgan, Aaron Banks, Elton Jenkins, Sean Ryan, Zach Tom, Anthony Belton, Kennard, and Donovan Jennings. 5 defensive ends: Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, Kingsley Anubare, Brenton Cox, Baron Sorrell. I think the Colin Oliver is still PUP'd. I'm almost sure of that. And then Anubare, some people thought with the way that his contract was, that he was a potential cut, and he just played too well all preseason and all camp, and is a part of what they do on special teams a little bit. And I think that is going to end up being enough. Sorrell, he could get IR designated to return in sort of a procedural move. But I think they think that's pretty short term. I think they think that injury is pretty short term. Big surprise here. 6 defensive tackles: Clark, Wyatt, Brooks, Wooden. No real surprises there. And then Brinson and Stackhouse, I think most people thought you'd have to pick one or the other. They don't pick. Both of the Georgia boys make the team, probably at the expense of a linebacker. Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper, Isaiah McDuffie, and Tyron Hopper. No Isaiah Simmons, and no Christian Welch either. 6 corners, Keyshawn Nixon, Nate Hobbs, Carrington Valentine, Bo Melton, Kamal Haddon, and Micah Robinson. Pretty big surprise for me there. I didn't love Robinson as a prospect. Didn't think he played very well or very much against Seattle. I thought Kalen King played a ton and was awesome in that game, and I kind of can't believe that they did what they did. But it doesn't all have to make sense to me. Maybe they think they're super deep at nickel corner with Nixon's history there, Nate Hobbs' history there, Javon Bullard's history there, and they just didn't project Kalen King outside. That's the only explanation that I can understand, because Kalen King was better than Micah Robinson and is a better player than Micah Robinson, but that is not the direction that they chose. 5 safeties, no surprises there. So Zane Anderson must be relatively healthy or headed to IR designated for return. McKinney, Williams, Bullard, Zane, and Katan Oladapo. And of course, your 3 specialists are McManus, Whalen, and Matt Orzik, who just got paid. Good for Matt Orzik, man. He got paid. So yeah, overall, I think the 4 inside linebackers thing is surprising. I would not have released Kalen King. The 6 defensive tackles, I didn't threaten to eat my own hat like Justice did, but that is surprising. Anytime, I mean, they've got 11 defensive linemen on this team, like on the roster. I think, that's something that they're probably assuming is going to take care of itself, right? If Oliver comes back, or if they want to add Welch or whatever they want to do, I think they probably are right in believing not all 11 of their defensive linemen are going to stay healthy all year. That seems pretty darn unlikely. And again, like, you're never cheering for injury or hoping for any of that, but some of these problems solve themselves. Okay, a super chat from Brandon. Does 4LBs, thank you, by the way, for the super chat. Do 4LBs pretty much confirm Oliver's going to be their off-ball depth piece? I don't know that it confirms that. I think, you're going to get the Kentucky kid, Jamon Johnson, I think, or Jamon J. He had a hyphenated name, and now I've Jamon Johnson. Yeah, Jamon Dumas Johnson is what it was hyphenated as. Jamon Johnson is what he goes by. I apologize. I think he'll be there. I think they could dump Welch on the practice squad if another team doesn't pick him up. I think Oliver could be part of the depth there. But I think they really like Johnson. I think they think Johnson's going to make it to their practice squad, and then they'll have elevations and obviously the opportunity to put him on the main roster if someone were to go down. So that, but I do agree with your general sentiment. 4 is light, especially when you're a 3 linebacker team. 4 is light. So yes, no, I'm with you 100%. Starting to take questions there. Just can't believe Bo Melton is doing what he's doing right now. The man has a gift. He's an impressive athlete. His brother plays corner. Not that means anything for him, but he is a great athletic profile for a corner. So does his brother. And sometimes ball is just ball. And you got good football players. And I think Bo Melton is eventually is a good football player and a good athlete. And that combination has him sticking around an NFL team yet again. Andy, were you surprised that they didn't? I'm not Andy, and I don't know if he's surprised. I know he was a Brinson over Stackhouse guy, and neither of us ended up technically being right because they kept both. And I think for now it's a good idea because I think Brinson probably has a little bit more snap, a little bit more pass rush upside, stuff like that. But I think Stackhouse feels like a need that they have right now and can go in and play short yardage right now in a way that I don't know if Brinson can. And Stackhouse isn't a complete player in that way either. But in year 2 or year 3, you could definitely see Stackhouse, shoot, he's wearing the same number, being a TJ Slayton-esque presence in there. So I can't tell you if Andy is surprised or not. I think this is so. What do you think the Packers lean more towards this year, having a run-heavy offense or a heavy passing offense? I assume that they're still going to throw more than they run, but that has to be relative to the league. I think the last time I looked, in general, the league was about a 65% pass, 35% run league. 65-35 run pass, I think. And so, maybe the Packers are closer to 59% pass or 60% pass or 58% pass, which means that technically they would be pass heavy. But you got to always look at that kind of stuff in relation to the league. And I think I think Matt LaFleur does want to run the ball more than most offenses at this time with Jacobs, with the move to bigger offensive linemen. I don't. I think they probably won't run it more than they pass it unless Love gets hurt. But in general, against league average, I think they're going to be a pretty darn I think they're going to be a pretty darn run heavy team as other teams are concerned. Oh, goodness. At what position could you see the Packers still making moves? I have a specific one that I like in Jelani Woods, the tight end, the big tight end from the Colts that they got to see live in person. I think he'd be a more exciting thing to me than Ben Sims. I would poke around there potentially. I would not be surprised if they practice squad a quarterback that isn't Elgersma or Clifford. I think that could certainly happen. But other than that, I think that it'd be pretty surprising. I think they have depth they like on the defensive line. They already made their offensive line move between Welch and Jamin Johnson. I think they would have had kind of what they want. The one spot, I guess, it would be corner. If they really wanted to, like Juju Brents just got released from the Colts. If they really wanted an outside corner that just got released or would come cheap or whatever, it'd have to be a young guy who would run down on special teams. Rasul Douglas just went to the Dolphins. I think if someone were going to come take Micah Robinson's spot or Kamal Haddon's spot, I know which one of those two I would choose to release, but it doesn't seem like they believe in that. I think you could definitely see a corner off of somebody else's roster potentially, in the way that they kind of kept tabs on Kamal Haddon when he was on the Chiefs roster. Yeah, that's not crazy. I guess Oladapo is the fifth linebacker. I don't know how much actual like reps there were for that idea, but it's not the dumbest idea I've ever heard. I think Oladapo was a hell of an idea as a dime linebacker. And if he's your fifth guy and he can cross train in at the two outside spots, he can at least provide coverage, run down and smash people on special teams. If you're only going to have four, because they're going to only have four up for game day. I mean, all four are always going to be up for game day. I don't think you're going to, even if you plan on being in a 4-2-5 for most of the game, you're not going to carry three healthy backers. That's crazy to me. Yeah, same thing. I can't fathom only four linebackers on the roster. I think there's a chance that there's something that they're working on. I just don't know. Mike Robinson was surprising. Always played after Valentine. Could not have been more wrong about that one. Don't get it. Don't understand it. It's not something that I understand. I would keep Valentine over him. I would certainly keep King over him. They do not feel that way. So yes, I'm with you there. Well, it should come back to the practice squad. We'll get several call ups. Yeah, I mean, I think they'd like that. It's the only thing is this happened last year and he ended up on an active roster. I think he's a veteran and not subject to waivers. So the second they released him, he's eligible to just straight up sign with a new team. I think they would love to have him on the practice squad. I think they would like him and Johnson on the practice squad. But Christian Welch has to decide that that's the best thing for him. And I don't know if that's any kind of a I don't know if that's any kind of a like I don't know that that's an incentive for him, right? He's got to feel like this is the best place for him because Welch obviously wants to be on an active roster making the league minimum. And not that practice squad guys get paid peanuts, but um whether or not he's somewhat local to the area, whether or not he's loves Green Bay and all those things, none of that matters if somebody else says, "Hey, here's you know twice what you would make on the practice squad," or whatever the math is. If he gets an opportunity to go pop on somebody's active roster, it doesn't know, man. Heath is just the more typical Packers receiver, being bigger and blocking. Not surprised that Hardman was the odd man out. Yeah, I still kind of feel like um I still kind of feel like they don't have a good answer at punt returner. And I know that's kind of doomsday-ish, but Jaden Reed is not good at punt returning. Not that we've seen. And I don't know that you want Matthew Golden doing that. I don't even know how good he is at it. Um, I think they wish this would have worked better with McCole, uh, because I don't think Keyshawn's particularly good at it. He's a good kick returner, obviously one of the best in the world, but um, phew, but 100% that Heath is their type, man. Especially not having Watson right now. Without without having Watson right now, Heath is the guy that you want out there moving people around because Golden tries hard, but he's the size of Golden. And to be honest with you, I don't know that Jaden Reed actually does try that hard. Um, but you got to have somebody for those runs that Josh Jacobs wants to bounce to the outside because without him, it's guys that don't, your top guys are guys that don't really block that much. Um, I think this is in relation to Kalen King. Yes and no. The nickel corner four, Bullard and Nixon are awful at nickel, at least from what we've seen on tape and what the coverage numbers show. So while I guess you could certainly say that on on paper that it'd be Hobbs, Bullard, Nixon, Kalen King. Nixon is miles better as an outside corner, I think. I mean, it's a very small sample size, but Nixon was an awful nickel, and Bullard was atrocious last year inside. That's not to say that he can't ever get better, but I certainly would have liked the coverage because they're one injury away from having to. If they're one injury away from that, and Bullard plays like he did last year, or Nixon plays like he has played his entire career inside, um, they're in rough shape because neither of those guys have actually been good as an interior corner. They should pick up Easton Stick. He'd certainly be more ready to help them than Elgersma or Clifford. He's much better than Clifford, and at this time right now he's better than Elgersma. But yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah, Hendon Hooker would be a really interesting one, um, just because uh, Belichick used to do stuff like this. Brand new offensive coordinator in Detroit. You're getting fed, all of the you're getting fed all of the information, everything that they are installing every day. You're in the quarterback's room. You're an extension of the coach. Like Hendon Hooker would have a tremendous amount of information um, if we're completely talking about being independent from uh, being a former top 100 pick, being a guy sort of like Malik Willis with a little ability, or you at least thought going into draft that he had a little bit of ability. The sort of like espionage part is something that Bill Belichick would do all the time. And I don't know that that's the only reason you would do it, but that one's super, super interesting. I've never been a fan of Orzik, but need a long snapper regardless. Honestly, Bisaccia loves him. Loves him, loves him, loves him, loves him, loves him. So I don't know how much weight that carries. I know a lot of people don't love Rich and don't think he's doing a great job, but they really, really like Orzik, and now he's one of the 4 or 5 highest paid long snappers that exist. So super, super pleased with him. Is Mr. Rich Bisaccia. Oh, I think we got a super chat if I can find it. What do you think the D-line rotation looks like? Kind of surprised with how well Brinson played. I'll be really, really interested to see how that works, because you're gonna probably rely on those top 4 pretty aggressively, the guys that have been there for a while. But Stackhouse has such a specific role that Slayton sort of provided. So I'd be really interesting to watch. Like if they elevate Stackhouse, and does he play early downs and short yardage, or is that Brinson, or are they so excited about the ability of Colby Wooden, now that he's gotten bigger and is playing some nose? Maybe they just roll with the 4 veterans and do a little bit of a red shirt for the 2 Georgia boys. I don't know. I really, really don't. Do you think they're so Melton actually, I think, is probably, as crazy as it might sound, I think Melton with his size is probably their primary outside backup. And I know that might sound nuts, but I don't know that Melton played nickel, maybe even at all, in the preseason. I think when they moved him to corner, they moved him to outside corner, which means your outside corner depth is basically Valentine, certainly Haddon, and then Melton, and your guys that can kind of play some inside would be technically Nixon, Hobbs, and then you would be able to sort of play Bullard in there as well. But yeah, I think those are kind of the guys that would be would be in the mix for that. But Melton, to my knowledge, has been an outside corner. Please repeat the safety room. Yeah. The 5 guys that everybody sort of expected. So the starters will be Xavier McKinney and Evan Williams, and backing them up will be Katana Oladapo, Javon Bullard, and then Zane Anderson as kind of a special teamer / super sub all over the place. Okay. So Keyshawn, our punt returner, I don't think so. I don't know. I think it's going to be Jaden Reed, and I don't think he's that good at it. And he's obviously, being around in a walking boot and stuff like that. It's not a injury spot you necessarily want to put him in. I don't love the idea in general, but that's what they're doing. I'm 90% sure they could put Keyshawn back there. He's not as good of a punt returner as he is as a kick returner. I think we ended up with another super chat. Thank you so much here, Marlon. Did you see that stat of Barron having the top QB hits of any rookie despite only playing one game? It's impressive. It is impressive, and I'm not going to take away from him. I think that stat is that he had 2 QB hits and all the other rookies had 1. You can look that up. I think the stat, and I love Jacob Morley. I think that stat was a little cooked. I think it was 2 QB hits for Barron Sorrell and 1 for everybody else. So the stat is legit, but like I said, I think it was a little bit cooked. Let's see. No, he's just on the 53. He is just on the 53. So I think they think he's going to be ready. And that was the whole point, according to them, was that they were cleaning up that knee so he'd be ready to go. So they're just assuming he's going to be ready to go, or everything that I've heard. Is the Packers return man not yet on the roster? I think there's a chance. Prochet got cut. He's a decent return man. There's guys out there, hopefully, but then it's, who do you release, right? Do you release a corner? Do you release a wide receiver? Because a punt returner is almost exclusively going to be a corner or a wide receiver. Sometimes you'll get sort of a safety like Micah Hyde to do it, but like I would bet that 90+% of the punt returners in the league are wide receivers or corners. Lloyd being on IR is beyond depressing. It is. He has shown how darn good he is when he's in there. And so, yeah, that does stink. That really does stink. I totally agree. I'll try grab one more. I'm now working upwards. Oh, we're joined by a visitor. Hi.
Mommy, Daddy, I'm on this side, and the computer, I'm on this side.
I know, honey. All right. Last question, and then I'm going to hang out with her. Year of the tight end incoming for Green Bay. I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. You could tell how excited Coach LaFleur is to play 12 personnel. And I got to tell you, one of the absolute stars of that joint practice with the Seahawks was Luke Musgrave. And what he can bring, especially if defenses from a tight end perspective are focusing on Tucker Kraft, if your second best like coverage guys are paying attention to Tucker Kraft, I think it's a tough one. All right, guys, thank you so much for following along. We'll catch you next time. Have a great rest of your day, and go Pack Go. Hi, this was helpful. Thanks.